Is this thing working? I guess it is. I'm using the wrong phone. Well, mumbling to myself as usual because I don't have any notes. I'm back. I'm back to make another YouTube video, and I'll tell you, it's a big day for numerous reasons. And one reason is that I have a real camera now. Amazon kept screwing up and breaking the camera that I ordered before, and telling me it was on the way, and then telling me it was on the way back to the company, and then saying it was on the way. And I don't know. I really think that the Uber driver or whoever it is they have delivering their stuff now, I think this person ran off to the Bahamas with an inexpensive hooker and took my camera. So, and they'll probably be starting some kind of video entertainment enterprise that I don't want to know anything about. Anyway, couldn't get my camera. Took forever. And so, what did I decide to do? Well, I decided to order another one. Why am I not seeing my... why are you blinking at me like that? What are you doing? Are you still working? Hello? I don't even know if this thing's still on. But we'll just pretend it is. I don't see the screen on the back doing anything. So, in order to get the camera working, I had to hook it up to, I had to do a lot of stuff. You know, it's amazing. I mean, I hate to talk like an old, I don't want to use the F word, but an old person who doesn't know anything about technology. I don't want to hear I don't want to sound like one of these people you used to see on TV commercials all the time. They go like, I just sent my granddaughter an email. You know, like that was the greatest thing that ever happened. I'm not that bad. But sometimes technology is pretty amazing. I got this camera for a couple $100, and figuring out how to use it is turning out to be a challenge. Not because it's hard to use, but because there's so many variables, so many alternative choices you can make. This thing has like, I didn't count them, but it looks like it has 20 different resolutions you can make. My old cell phone that I used to use, it was pretty much on or off. I mean, I think there was some kind of resolution switch in there someplace. But nothing like this new camera. And I've been making videos, like 10, 20-second videos, just to figure out what the resolution looks like on a certain setting. And I'm trying to figure out what Ultra means. This thing is a 4K Ultra camera. The one thing I know about 4K Ultra is that I don't need it. 4K Ultra is like some giant resolution that nobody really needs. And I've seen some people on there, like the A-Bomb79, his channel. Maybe he's using 4K Ultra resolution. I don't know, but his videos are gorgeous. You can see his old videos are you know, kind of like my cell phone videos. And then the ones he does lately, it's like you can look at the paint cans and the oil cans or whatever that are behind him on the shelf and read the labels. It's funny. These cameras, they make things look better than they do in real life, and very clear and very sharp. But I don't really need that, and I don't want to spend 3 days uploading every video because it's so big, because it has so much stuff in it. So I tried to figure out what Ultra was and what resolution I needed, and it looks like Ultra just means wide. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. As far as I can tell, when you click that Ultra thing, the only thing you get is a picture with an angle so wide you don't need it. Everybody who does YouTube videos in his garage or his shop or whatever understands me when I say there's a lot of stuff you don't want in the picture. You don't want people to see the stuff on the floor. You don't want to see the things that you've broken. You don't want to see the things that you haven't maintained very well. I mean, let's see. What can I... This thing has a video screen on the back of it, and it only turns on once in a while. What can I see? It works on my phone, so I can look at my phone and see what it's filming. And I'm trying to see what it's showing me on my phone. Well, over there's my welding jacket, which shouldn't be there, and it's dirty and it's wadded up. And I think there's some sandpaper on the floor and a zip tie. And wow, I can even see a little bit of the grinding wheels that I left on the floor on top of an old t-shirt. So you don't want everything on camera. So I figured I would get rid of the Ultra thing and go with 1080p and see what happens. And I still feel like you're getting more information than I really want you to have. So, but, oh boy. And the other thing is I tried to set this up. I have a dead cell phone. you know, and I don't use it for anything. And it's what I used to use to film my videos. And now that I have this camera, one of the great things about the camera is that you can use it with a remote control. Unfortunately, it doesn't come with a remote control. You got to turn your tablet or your cell phone into the remote. You got to download an app from Google Play. And I don't want to screw up my real phone, the one with this red case, which is, you know, an antique by most people's standards, but it's my new phone to me. I don't want to deal with the aggravation of going back and forth between an app and my phone and my messaging and whatever in case somebody actually talks to me. So I decided to put it on the old phone. So now I have to move everything around. And one of the casualties in this reapportionment of storage space is the old Glock. I live in Florida, and I'm not positive. I haven't researched the law lately, but I believe I'm required to carry a loaded pistol, wherever I go. That may be an exaggeration. I'm not sure, but I always carry it with me, because why not? You know, no one ever said, "Boy, I'm sorry I had a." Well, actually, some people have said, "I'm sorry I had a gun," and didn't need it, because I know Sam Kinison. He said that the comedian Sam Kinison said he had an argument with his girlfriend, and then she said everything is all right, and she packed his bag for him so he could go on a trip. And he got to the airport, and there was a loaded gun in his carry-on. So I guess, yeah, sometimes there are times when you don't want a pistol with you, but generally, no. You don't really regret carrying a pistol with you, and there's plenty of times you'll regret not carrying one. So anyway, I had to move my Glock out of my cell phone pocket. I mean, I had to move my new old cell phone remote into my Glock pocket. So now the Glock has to be over here, and I know what's going to happen. I'm going to leave it in the garage all night. So when a burglar comes in, he'll come in through the garage, and he'll see my Glock, and he'll go, "Oh, that was thoughtful," and then he'll shoot me with it. But anyway, at least I've got a place to to carry my phone. And of course, I screwed up and put the app on the wrong phone, so now this is all meaningless. What am I planning to do today? Well, machining. And oh boy, I wish this screen would stay on. I have to look at my phone to see what I'm filming. Here it is. This is a hand wheel, and it's cast iron, and I got it for, I don't know, $5 or something from Enco, a great company that gave people great discounts and then disappeared. It was absorbed into MSC, which is a good company too, but not nearly as cool as Enco. Well, they would go nuts. You know, you'd be sitting around your computer, and an email would pop up, and it would say, "Today only, 30% off on everything. We don't care what it is, free shipping." And you could buy, you know, a $10,000 lathe for $7,000, and they'd ship it for nothing. I mean, those days are gone. But I got this thing from Enco, and when I got it, it wasn't drilled. Didn't have any hole in it. And the reason, this is one that I drilled out and tapped. And the reason I made this is that I still can't tell if I'm on camera. Oh yeah, there it is. I was making my own Moxon wood vise for the world's worst woodworking bench. The bench that I use, I did when I first made it, I didn't know anything about woodworking or anything. I just needed a workbench. So I made the world's worst bench out of 2x6s. And later on, I got my new hand planes and stuff that I had bought, and I gouged a big pocket out of it, and I stuck a Moxon vise in it. And if you don't know what a Moxon vise is, Moxon is a Middle English word which means very badly engineered. A Moxon vise is just what's called a chop, which means the front jaw. It's just a board. You know, you got a board, and then you put 2 screws through the board, and then you put a hand wheel like this on each screw, and you just, you know, move the board in and out and stick your wood in there. And there's some nice things about it, because it's like 2 feet wide. You can put big pieces of wood in it, and I rigged mine up so that it can open to like 14 inches or some ridiculous thing. And it was probably a stupid idea. I mean, I think the record vices and other nice real woodworking vices are probably better, but they wouldn't really work with my crazy workbench because of its ill-conceived design. So I went with a Moxon. I thought it'd be fun, it'd be simple, and so I had to buy these things and then drill them out and tap them, and that turned out to be a nightmare. I had to make a threading tool. I found out I wanted to buy a tap, and I saw this tap on eBay, and I bought it, and I tried to cram it through the hole that I drilled, and I made sure the hole was the right size, and I consulted Machinery's handbook, and the hole was the wrong size, I thought. I kept trying to push this thing through, and it was impossible. It was impossible to turn, and people kept saying, "Oh, that's okay, it's just a big tap, they're hard to turn." Well, I found something out. There's like 5,000 different kinds of Acme taps. This is an Acme stub tap, and I think stub refers to the height of these cutting things, whatever they're called. I think what it means is you end up with short threads. If you've ever seen a tube that has Acme threads on it, that's an Acme stub thread. Because it's a tube, you don't want to cut way down into it and have big threads on it because you'll weaken the tube. So you use this thing to make shorter, whatever these things are, threads, I guess, shorter threads. And the problem with that is if you drill a hole for a regular Acme thread and then you try to use one of these things, you get real problems. What you get is a smooth bore because it just grinds everything out of there. So that didn't work. And then I made my own threading tool, single point. And I should show it to you. Wait, I wonder if I can reach it right here. If I can, I'll bring it out and show it to you. But if I can't, I'm not going to sit here and waste your time more than I already am by making videos. Let's see. Well, subject for another video, but you can make a threading tool by grinding a disc on the end of a piece of drill rod that hasn't been hardened yet. And all you do is it'd make a lot more sense if I showed it to you, but basically you cut through the disc that you put on the end of the drill rod, and you cut it. You turn it so that you have a disc that has a 60-degree edge on it, or in the case of an Acme thread, whatever that degree setting is, and then you go through it. You cut it in half. You grind off half of it, and that gives you a point that's 60 degrees on the side or whatever it is you want, and you can use that as a single point threading tool, and it works real well. You have to harden it and all that. But it's it takes a lot of skill, which I don't have, and it's easy to make mistakes, and I'm prone to those. So I screwed up a couple of these wheels, didn't do a great job, and I finally ended up using this one came out okay, and then I had a third one which was sort of okay, and I've been using it, and I want one that actually works. So I've been looking for one of these things on eBay forever. This is a tandem Acme tap, and it's not a stub tap, I hope. I looked at it, I'm pretty sure. And they call it tandem, I suppose, because it has really two taps in one. It's got this one that kind of roughs things out and gives you narrow threads, and then you go back behind it with this one, and you get big old threads, and you're done. Usually these things, they're like 150 bucks or more. That's like a cheap one, is some ridiculous amount of money. And I had my eBay search, and I kept looking and looking, and they kept sending me the wrong thing, or they try to send me a Chinese one, and I didn't trust those. And finally this thing popped up for 27 bucks, and I jumped right on it. And this is, I think this is, I don't know, it's so old, it's from Yugoslavia, which doesn't exist anymore. Where Yugoslavia used to be, now there's just a big hole in the ground. No, Yugoslavia is, what is it? I don't know. Look on a map someday. I can't keep up with this stuff. I still remember Burma. I still say Burma, so I don't really know what goes on in the former Yugoslavia. But anyway, this thing ought to do the trick. So what I'm going to have to do is, I've got one of these guys, and I have to do a lot of things with it. You don't want to, this thing's like, look at that, that's like, what, over an inch, and that boss in the middle is like over an inch long. Nobody wants to tap something like this that deep. It makes it hard to turn the tap, and it's just unnecessary. So also, when you have something that screws up against something else and applies pressure to it, you don't want it, you want something that's kind of open up on the end, so it applies pressure toward the outside, not way in the middle. And so I opened this up a little bit. I made like a 0.80 inch hole on this end that's 0.4 inches deep, and then I made one on this end that's, I would guess, I don't remember, but I would guess it's like 1/10 of an inch deep. And then after that, I had to bore out the hole to like whatever I think it's 0.5866 inches or something like that. You can see it in Machinery's Handbook. I had to bore it. I had to drill it and bore it after boring both ends of it, and then I had to tap it. And it's a real pain in the butt, because when you indicate this thing, it's rough. You can't indicate this thing. It's probably somewhere between 10 and 20 thousandths, the irregularity of this thing, maybe more than that, because it's a coarse, rough, nasty casting. So you got to try to guess at, in order to make these counter bores on the ends, you got to sort of indicate it. You got to indicate it once, and then you got to flip it over and indicate it pretty well consistently with the work you did on the other side, which now you can't use to indicate off of because it's hidden in the lathe chuck or whatever you're using. You know what I mean? So you got to indicate it once with this crazy rough surface, and then you got to turn it around and indicate it again, and you got to drill this hole through it, and then you got to bore it. And it's a pain in the butt. And if you try to do it in a lathe chuck, it wants to fall out all the time because these things are hard. They're like glass, you know. They really don't like to stick in a lathe. So one way to do this is to put it on the old rotary table on the milling machine. I wonder if I can show you that. Let's see. How many things will I show you that I don't want you to see when I do this? I don't know. Can you see? Bang. My $24 tripod is not working out too well. I don't know if you can see what I've done over there, but the milling machine has an indicator on the spindle, and there's a rotary table and a 4-jaw chuck, and I'm trying to indicate on the boss on the hand wheel, and I'm within like 5 thousandths total swing, and I guess that'll work. And you can do it this way, but I thought about it and I thought maybe I should do it with soft jaws on a lathe. That's really, I hate using soft jaws. I've never used them, but I hate it anyway. So it's labor intensive, and also look at these are my soft jaws. Soft jaws, get out of there, they're not really soft. See, these have never been open. I hate to ruin my nice soft jaws, darn it. But these are just steel jaws that have not been hardened. So if you have an irregular part like this, you can put these things in your put these things on your lathe chuck and bore them out so there's a holding surface, you know, that's about like the surface, about the shape of whatever it is you're putting in there, and then you can tighten them on whatever it is you've got, and they hold well because there's a lot of area, a lot of linear, you know, whatever you want to call it, surface gripping your part. It's not like a lathe chuck where that just touches it at, you know, 1 or 2 points and fall. These things will fall right out of a 3-jaw chuck even after you tighten them. Really maddening. So I'm thinking what I'm going to do is bore these guys out and stick this guy, well, not this guy, but his friend over there, stick it in there. And if I do that, then there is some hope that I should have good repeatability when I turn it over. And it ought to grip it well, and I ought to be able to do all the drilling and boring without a lot of indicating. With the lathe, first I've got to get the wheel. I've got to put the wheel down and you know, face up like this, and then I've got to indicate it so it's concentric with the rotary table, and then I've got to indicate it under the spindle eventually, because I don't have to do that when I make this bore. You know, as long as it's concentric with the rotary table, I can make that bore. But to make this hole that's inside it, it's got to be directly under the spindle. So, you know, I'm gonna have to indicate it on the table, and then I'm gonna have to indicate this under the spindle, and then I'm gonna have to turn it over, indicate this under the spindle, and it's gonna be a pain in the butt. So, my hope is to use the soft jaws. Long story, probably pretty dull, but that's okay because I don't make money on YouTube. I don't care if anybody watches me. I'm just having a good time. I'm not selling a product. You're never going to see me saying, "Oh wow, LeBlanc just sent me this new, you know, $3,000 product. I'm going to test it for you," because they know I'm an idiot. It's never going to happen. I'm just here to have fun. So I hope you're not too bored. I'm going to see if I can set this up. I don't know if this is the same video or if I'm going to have to stitch two together or what. I had to wait a long time to come back to this. These are my soft jaws, which I should put this in neutral. These are my soft jaws. Very impressed with myself. And I figured a couple of things out. In order to bore these things, you know, you can't have them just flopping around. These jaws are not rigidly held in place unless... Let me turn this music down. There we go. Yeah, I'll get sued for having YouTube music in the background. So, these things, if you don't put something in them, when you bore them out, they're going to flop around. You can't get a good bore that way. You're going to have all kinds of trouble. So I made this thing, and the idea is that I'm going to clamp it in the vise, and it will hold the jaws out, and then I will bore out the jaws while they're held rigidly in place. Now, whether this will work or not, I don't know, because I've never done it before. Let's see. This thing's cool enough to touch now. I'll give you the basic idea. This lathe has a pretty big bore. The only piece of round material I could find that was anywhere close to the right size for this was 2.5 inch 6061. I needed something a little smaller than that to fit in the bore without sliding into it. So there's what I'm hoping for. I don't know if you can see that. And then you tighten it up, and now I've got something that'll hold these out while I bore them. And the only question is, will it be? I guess it'll work. I would rather have something bigger in there so I don't have to take as much off the jaws, but I think this will work. So it took me a really long time to do that. Installing the soft jaws was no problem. What really stinks is changing the chucks, because this is a big lathe and these are big chucks. This is a set true, not an expensive one. I wish I could brag and say it's like $1 or something, or even a vise. And this is a gator chuck, and it's a set true, and that means it has this, thing on the base, this additional layer in here that allows you to adjust it. You get this thing adjusted. Sometimes I think technology and I are just never going to get along. I got my new camera, I got my cell phone set up, put the battery in, pick the resolution, all this stuff, and then now it turns out that the battery, I thought the battery would mainly suck juice while the camera was recording. Apparently it sucks a lot of juice while it's just sitting around, and that's what I had to do, and sitting around while I was doing all this. So anyway, I got this thing in here, and hopefully it will hold this, when I bore these jaws out, this aluminum puck here will hold it in place, and this will come out to the right size, and then I'll be able to do the wheel. So I know this is the most boring video on earth. I'm really not accomplishing anything. Look at the oil coming out of this thing. I took it apart and took it completely apart and oiled it the last time I used it on cast iron, because cast iron throws abrasive crap everywhere. So I know it's kind of a dull video, but I wanted to make sure I got my camera right. And for me, this is an ambitious project. For somebody who knows what he's doing, a real machinist, this is a giant joke. But for me, this is kind of a, because I don't know if this is going to work out or not. I may have to come up and put another video up in a day that says, my lathe exploded, I'm in the hospital, the neighbors are suing me, Homeland Security is involved. So, but I'm very happy with the way things are going, apart from the fact that this camera poops out on me. I guess I'm going to start cleaning up now. And yeah, it's 7:30. I'm pooped. Tomorrow I'll get back on it. Thanks for watching, if you did.